Good afternoon, Oakview DC friends. Miss Lorraine here. So this is going to be a different type of video. It is not a story time video. As you can see, I am not in the typical room where I do the story times. I'm not in any of the places I've done story time before. This is actually like my little kitchenette, dinette area in my kitchen. So I am at the kitchen kind of little dinette table because I am going to do a demonstration of one of the art projects, which is going to be it's already posted on Google Classroom for you guys to do if you'd like as an activity this week. But I want to demonstrate one for you. So this one is the one that's actually from our curriculum book, the Art Lab for Kids Express Yourself book. So this is string tube painting, or string tube printing, sorry. String tube printing. It could just as well be called painting though, honestly. So I do have the directions, and I kind of took snapshots of those pages in the book and uploaded them to the classroom so you guys can see the directions, or your parents can help you with that if you want to do it. But you can also just watch the video and follow along. So as you will see, I did not have all of the necessary materials for the art project. As you know, you could probably imagine right now, with us not being encouraged not to leave our homes too often, and I haven't been at the classroom in some time, I did not have all the things that I needed. I scoured around my house and I did find some things that would work, but I didn't have everything. So I kind of just want to show you guys how that's okay, how that works. You can still do this, I hope. We'll see how it turns out, but without having exactly what it says you should have, you can modify. You can do your own version. It's improvise, adapt, overcome. That's a family motto of my family's. But so first, you definitely need some type of large surface. I actually cut a big piece of cardboard from a large box I had because I did not have what they said, which is plexiglass sheet. I don't know how many of us have a plexiglass sheet laying around, but if you do, great, use that. But if you don't feel bad. I didn't. If you have like some type of large like tray or lid that's okay to get paint on, or even maybe just a really big like placemat that is okay if it gets kind of messed up though, but make sure it's okay with your parents, whatever surface you use. But you need some type of surface that you're going to be able to get paint on and spread around and have a space to work in, and that is not going to be a problem if it gets messed up, because it's probably going to get messed up. So I made mine large enough that I don't think I'm going to need newspaper. I hope I estimated that correctly, because I got my tablecloth on my table right now. So maybe that wasn't the best thinking. So maybe I would suggest to you lay down newspaper if you have it. I just don't have a ton of newspaper lying around. But anyway, moving on. Something you definitely do need though. You're really going to need for this project one of these, and I know, or it's a shorter version, toilet paper roll would be okay too. I know those have been in short supply. There have been a kind of a gold commodity lately because of everything that's been going on, but paper towel rolls maybe not quite as much, and maybe hopefully you had some left over from before, or in your recycling you haven't thrown out yet. You definitely need some type of tube, preferably cardboard, that you can use like this. That even I just thought of this, but even a wrapping paper tube. If you have any old wrapping paper from Christmas, or from in the garage or something left behind that you're not going to use, or your parents are okay with you using the tube from it, not the paper but just the tube. A tube from wrapping paper would work too. That'd be a good size, and it's cardboard. But you're going to need that. And then you definitely also need some type of twine or cotton string, something like this. This is actually twine. And I just knew I had a whole spool of it in my garage somewhere, and I was hunting around all morning looking for it. But of course, I couldn't find it. But thankfully, I did find it a section enough that I hope is going to work. So I don't even have to cut that. I'm hoping this is going to be good enough. It seems like it because it's about, well, it's more than twice the length of the tube. Almost 3 times the length of the tube, so I'm thinking that's probably enough. So if you do have a whole spool of twine or some type of cotton string would work too, like floss, even like I'm thinking like maybe even something like not bungee cord, but like type of stuff you might use like in camping supplies. But of course you need to ask your parents, make sure it's okay to use anything like this. But those types of kind of like utility ropes, that sort of thing, that might work. Yarn, unfortunately, I don't think is going to work, because the problem with yarn would be excuse me, that the fibers are going to get stuck in the paint, and I think that they would kind of make a mess, and it would make things turn out differently. So you think you need something where that's not going to happen quite as much, but you also need something that has some texture, like the twine does. If you can see that, it's got texture. It's not just flat, and it's just not just kind of like two-dimensional. And it needs to be a little thicker than, like, it can't be like dental floss or even like sewing thread, because it's it needs to be thicker than that for you to actually see what's going to happen with it. Okay, so you've got your string, you've got your tube, you've got your surface to work on. Now, what are we missing here? We definitely need paint. Acrylic paint, preferably. However, this is also something that you can substitute on, because I realize not everybody has acrylic paint lying around. I'm fortunate in that I do actually have acrylic paint, thanks to my older daughter, Maya, who is an artist and she paints. So she does actually have quite a lot of acrylic paint. So she was willing to let me use some of hers. This color is as close as I could get to my favorite color, which is turquoise. Some of you guys may remember that. You may at least remember it's blue. Yep. Turquoise. This isn't quite turquoise, but this is as close as she has to that. This is one called cerulean blue. So I'm going to use that. But I realize it's not likely that everybody's got acrylic paint lying around. So if you don't, I think this project would work fine with tempera paint as well. If you have any tempera paint, finger paint, it might work with finger paint. I'm not sure about watercolor. I'm kind of feeling like it probably wouldn't work with watercolor, even if you could get watercolors to be able to, it'd be difficult rolling this through the watercolor, but then it probably wouldn't print very much either. So you probably need something thicker than that, but doesn't need to be acrylic. But that's apparently what's recommended. That's the ideal. So I do have that. You also need some tape. It recommends that you have masking tape. I also don't have masking tape, so I'm just using Scotch tape.
I have masking tape.
Oh, okay. My daughter says she has masking tape, so maybe she can get some for me. But if you don't have masking tape, that's fine. I think any kind of tape that's gonna get your string or twine or whatever to stay on your tube is gonna be okay. It'll work. You also need a paintbrush so that you can put your paint down on your surface. And I had a whole jar of options that she gave me to choose from, but I'm going to choose the widest one that I can find, just because it's going to make me get the paint on the surface faster. Because you're going to need a fair amount of paint to work with, because this is going to need to roll through the paint. So it also recommends that you have a brayer, which, to be quite honest, I wasn't even sure what a brayer was. Do you know, Maya?
Brayer?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So, no, the only thing in the picture that looks like it could possibly be something that's not also they're already talking about that I know what it is. Looks kind of like a paint roller. So I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm not even going to worry about that because I'm not even sure what that is. Thank you. So hopefully it'll work out just fine without that. And then, of course, if you're using acrylic paints, or actually really if you're using any paints, but definitely acrylics because they stain pretty quickly, you need to have a cup of water and make sure it's a cup that you don't mind getting messed up. As you can see, this is my daughter Maya's cup she's been using, well, maybe you can see, for many years with various painting projects. So obviously we don't drink out of that cup. That's just a painting cup. So make sure you have either a disposable or a cup that your parents are okay with you using just for putting paint and paint water residue in. So okay, and of course, final thing you're gonna need some paper, right? You're gonna make a little printing, you need some paper. So I'm just using copy paper. They didn't actually recommend any specific paper. So, you know, ideally paint paper would be great, or something maybe with a little bit heavier duty kind of paper, like an art paper of some kind might be more ideal if you had it around, because it probably just would help hold the paint better. But I don't have that right now, so I'm just gonna go with copy paper for a copy machine or a printer. So what you need to do first is, if your twine or your string is not already, your yarn is not already, not yarn, sorry, string or twine is not already cut, be sure to cut a length of it. Give yourself a length. They recommend as long as your arm. This is longer than my arm, clearly. And I'm gonna go with that because I can always cut it and make it shorter, right? But I can't make it longer. So I'm gonna start out with longer and see what that gets me. And then what you need to do is you need to tape one end. And see, my daughter Maya, she's great. She brought me some masking tape. So I do actually have the recommended kind of tape now. Thank you, Maya. But if you don't have masking tape, like I said, I think just Scotch tape, like regular kind of clear tape, would work fine, or electrical tape, duct tape, any kind of tape really will be fine. Now it says tape it towards one end, near one end of the tube. Now in the picture, it showed her taping it like this. You can see maybe. I personally think, I could be wrong, it seems to me it might be a little more secure if you do it like this, where it's taped under the tube, within the tube. So I did it that way. It may turn out that I'm doing it wrong. Maybe there's a reason she did it that way. We'll see. And now it says wrap it around the tube tightly. So now this is where your creative, artistic kind of expression comes in, because you can choose how you want to wrap it around, whether you want to keep it like completely horizontal, or horizontal, like along the line of the tube, or maybe I'm trying to get mine to kind of like spiral, like diagonally, a little bit like that. I would prefer that look. You could try to make each line as it goes around exactly the same distance apart, or if you want, you could vary them. Maybe you want to make yours like, let's see what that would look like if you do some farther apart and some closer together. However you want to do it is perfect, because that is how you want to express yourself. And that is what art is all about. Art is not about, sometimes crafts are about trying to produce something that looks like something that somebody else made so that you can make an example of it, your own copy. But art truly is not about that. Art is really about expressing yourself freely and, you know, presenting something that you have in your mind in a visual or material form, like creating it, you know. And so that's easier said than done. Apparently, my idea wasn't quite working there the way, or maybe I just have to be willing to accept that if I make some of them closer together, they're not gonna be as like diagonal as I want. Maybe I just have to be willing to accept less than perfection, which is typically my problem. At least with myself. I'm usually fairly lenient with like others as far as not demanding like perfection from them, but I can be pretty hard on myself as far as what I expect myself to be able to do. But then can't we all be that way sometimes? Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. And so that's why, especially during these times when we're all kind of really going through so much challenging changes, so many challenging changes and so much stress, that it's really important to practice self-care. Be kind to yourself. You know, be kind to others, but be kind to yourself too. Don't give yourself such a hard time. I should follow my own example, my own advice. So, okay, it's not exactly doing what I wanted. And interestingly, even though I thought I had plenty, apparently I don't have quite enough to do what I want with that, but that's okay. I'm just gonna stop for now, because sometimes that's how it is. Sometimes you cannot actually quite produce your vision on paper or in real life. Or sometimes it takes more than one try. Maybe I have to try it again. However, I'm just gonna see what happens. So I've got this. You can see it's a little uneven. That's okay. Now you need to get your paint. Now you can do this on a completely separate surface if you like. If you have like a paper plate or something that you can use for just this part, then great, do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna be kind of careful. I'm gonna keep my paper over here, and I'm gonna do my paint over here and do my rolling over on this side. See, hopefully that'll work. So I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze some paint out on the surface. And of course you guys can't even see that because that's out of your view, but there we go. There it is. And now I am going to spread it around a bit. Now be careful when you spread it around because you don't want it to thin out too much to where it's not gonna be putting enough of a layer on your roller when you roll it through. You wanna make sure you have enough of a good layer that it's gonna coat your roller. But you also don't want to waste a lot of paint, especially if you're using acrylics, because I don't know if you know this, if you don't know anything about paints, you wouldn't probably know this, but acrylics can be expensive. But actually, you know, in these times right now, everybody's needing to be careful about saving their dollars because, you know, not everybody is making as much money as they were before, or even some parents aren't working right now. So you need to really be careful about saving your money. So don't waste money. Don't, you know, waste resources you don't need to. So be careful. Try not to use too much paint. Of course, you know, as I say that, I'm putting on a little bit more, but that's because I realize I don't quite have enough of a layer. So I'm lifting it up a little so you can see you need to have enough of a layer that it's gonna coat your roller when it goes through, but not so much that you're just like wasting it all, and have it enough of the length, the width wise, that it's going to coat most of the width of your roller space. So now be sure to put your brush in your water cup right away because that gets very messy and it dries really fast. So now before it dries, you're gonna take your roller, press it, and then roll it carefully, not touching where it's getting on the paint too much. You're gonna need to wash your hands, but try to avoid getting too much in your hand. And roll it back and forth through your paint. Now when you've got a good coating on your twine or your yarn, or not your yarn, I keep saying yarn, your twine or your string that's on your roller. I need to go a little bit sideways here so I can get this part. Now, get your paper and try rolling it out on your paper and see what you get. And here's where the creativity, the surprise, the imagination, and the artistic part is gonna really come in. Because you don't have to roll it just straight forward or just one time and back. You can go over it multiple times like I am doing. You can go over it from more than one direction like I'm doing. So you can see I did one direction a little bit and then another direction a little bit. So it created kind of a diagonal pattern in mine. I'm trying to see maybe, well actually, when I first started rolling, I didn't have anything in mind. I just wanted to start to see what was gonna come out. But once I started seeing, now I'm getting an idea to see if I can create like an additional kind of like underlayer look to it by changing the direction, letting the paint get a little bit drier, rolling it faster back and forth. Oh yeah, that's cool. So, okay, yeah, see, so you can see acrylic paints dry really quickly. So if you're using acrylics, be careful. They dry fast, and you do need to get your brush in a cup of water that's okay for you to mess up as quick as possible. And then as soon as possible, when you're done, go wash your hands really well. But so there's my design. I think I'm pretty satisfied with that. I like it. It's interesting. And I'm gonna hold it up close so you can see. So because I used twine, maybe you can tell, you can see actual little bits of fiber that didn't come off. So I think that's what would be the problem with yarn, is they would actually pull it off and get stuck in the paint on your paper, which that could be interesting too, but not the effect you're going for here. But because I used twine as opposed to string, I think the fibers on the twine are a little bit looser and more texturous, and so you can see them kind of like brushing out in these little tiny little spatter patterns all over. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you do it with yarn, your effect is going to be different because yarn is a tighter weave, and so it has less little fibers sticking out. So it's less texturous and fibrous, I guess, maybe than twine. But maybe with your yarn, or no, yarn, I keep saying yarn, with your string, you will find that you can control the wrapping a little bit better. Maybe you can create like a better design than I did with the string. Certainly it will help if you have a full spool of yarn, of string or twine. I stopped myself from saying yarn this time. If you have a full spool, like is shown in the book, and I'm not going to hold it with my paint hands right now, that would be helpful. Unfortunately, I couldn't find mine. So thankfully I found what I did, but I think I could have used a little more twine, because then I could have created a little bit more intricate of a pattern. It could have gone on longer. So that could have made it more interesting, but that's okay. Art is a process. Art is just a means of expressing yourself. So, and it's a means of expressing our feelings and our thoughts inside that we can't always get out with words, but it's also a process in that sometimes it's not about the goal or the end result. A lot of the times art is really about the process of getting there. It's about how the artist feels as they're going through all the steps in the process of creation. And then the end result, of course, is something that hopefully they enjoy and feel pleased with, and then maybe even others do. So, okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you found it helpful. And I hope that some of you guys decide you might like to do this activity, or if not this activity, the other activity, which is posted, and you don't have to do it today. I'm just going to upload this quickly so that you can do it today if you want. But if you need to do it another day, if it doesn't work for your schedule today, that's totally fine. And if you decide not to do it at all, that's okay too. The other project, I just couldn't demonstrate for you guys because I have no clue. Maybe I should ask Ms. Roberta for some. Well, she has some the other day, but didn't think about that. So, okay, thanks for joining me, guys, and I hope to see you all on Thursday for our Zoom meditation and sharing circle. And so what I mean by that, and please don't get all scared off, I know some of you, meditation is hard for you, and that's fine. I'm going to limit the meditation time to approximately 5 minutes once everybody's in the waiting room. I'm not going to make once people it looks like everybody's in the waiting room and I started admitting everybody, then I'm going to just try to limit it to 5 minutes so it's not too long for you to sit there. And then I'm just going to open it up to just kind of free, taking turns and being respectful, but still free sharing with one another and with me and Ms. Roberta, if you'd like, just about your feelings. You know, it's just, you can talk if you want to, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm just opening this up for you to be a time where you can just talk about, you know, how things are going for you right now during our school closure and distance learning time, and how you're feeling, you know, kind of being at home most of the time with your family and being away from your school and your teacher and your friends. And like, you know, I realize that that's probably hard for a lot of you, and you know, it's hard for your teachers too. And as a parent, I can tell you it's hard for parents too. This whole time is challenging for everybody. So I want to give you guys a space where you can talk about how you feel about that, because you know, maybe it's good for you to be able to share with, you know, other people like your age, but it's also good for you to be able to reach out to teachers and talk with them as well. So okay, I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, for sure on Friday for our Fun Friday meeting. We're gonna have a scavenger hunt led by Miss Roberta, so you gotta be there. So, all right, thanks for joining me, guys. See you next time.